Why do we waste so much time thinking about other people, what they said, what they did, how they see us, whether they like us, praise us, or judge us? It's exhausting, isn't it? You wake up with dreams in your heart, but your mind is already busy reacting to someone else's opinions. You feel tired, not because of what you did, but because of everything you allowed into your mental space. You're not even living your own life. You're trapped in theirs. But here's the truth. The moment you stop focusing on others and start focusing on yourself, everything begins to change. And if you stay with me till the end, I'll tell you exactly how that shift gives you an unshakable edge in life. You see, human psychology is wired for survival, for connection, for approval. That's why we crave validation. That's why we want to be seen, heard, and accepted. But somewhere along the way, we become addicted to it. We lose ourselves trying to fit into places that were never meant for us. We dim our light to match the room. And every time we do that, we step further away from our own path. That's why you feel lost sometimes, because you're not walking your road. You're busy watching someone else's. But let this hit you deeply, they're not thinking about you as much as you think. Most people are too wrapped up in their own lives. So while you're overthinking that one comment, that one look, or that one message left unread, life is passing by. And not just any life. Your life. The one you're supposed to build. The one that holds your peace, your dreams, your power. But as long as your eyes are on others, your energy is leaking. And nothing grows when your energy leaks. What if you took that energy back? What if you pulled all that attention you give away and turned it inward? That's when real transformation happens. Not when you shout, not when you prove, but when you go quiet and start building. That silence? It's not weakness. It's strength under control. Peace becoming power. And in that silence, you begin to hear the truth, the voice inside you that's been buried under the noise. When you stop explaining, you start healing. When you stop reacting, you start reflecting. And that's where you find clarity. That's where your focus sharpens. Because the more you pay attention to others, the more distracted you become from your own purpose. But when you return to yourself, when you reclaim your time, your thoughts, your energy, something powerful starts growing inside you. You begin to feel stronger, calmer, wiser. Here's the part no one tells you. You don't need to respond to everything. You don't need to fight every battle or prove every point. Sometimes the highest form of strength is restraint. And when you master that, you no longer move from emotion, you move from vision. That's how winners move. That's how leaders rise. Quiet, steady, focused. People may misunderstand you. They might question your silence. Let them. Your silence is not for them. It's for you. It's your training ground. It's where you build discipline, where you sharpen your focus, where you choose not to chase attention but to attract it by becoming better. That's the reward of self-focus. Everything starts working for you when you stop trying to force things through other people. Every time you resist the urge to react, you win. Every time you choose silence over drama, focus over distraction, you grow. And growth is what will separate you. It's what will elevate you. It's what will silence the noise without saying a word. So if you've been feeling overwhelmed, lost, or frustrated, it's probably because you've been giving your power away. Take it back. Cut the noise. Cut the comparison. And go all in on you. Stay quiet, stay working, stay focused. And you'll be shocked at what happens when you stop watching others and finally start watching yourself. The habit of watching others is like a slow poison. It feels harmless at first, just scrolling, comparing, observing. But over time, it eats away your confidence. You start measuring your journey with someone else's timeline. You question your pace, your worth, your progress. And the more you compare, the less you feel. That's how doubt enters your life. Quietly through the door you left open by paying too much attention to people who don't even know your battle. Human psychology craves belonging. But when that belonging turns into self-abandonment, you start losing the fire inside. Every time you look outside for answers, you weaken the voice within. You lose touch with your instincts, your dreams, your direction. You become reactive instead of intentional. You start chasing trends instead of truth. And that is exactly how people waste years, chasing a version of success that never belonged to them. But when you choose to disconnect from that noise and focus on yourself, something magical happens. You don't just hear your own voice, you trust it. You stop needing approval. You stop needing applause. You begin to move with quiet confidence. And this confidence isn't loud. It doesn't need to announce itself. It shows up in how you carry yourself, in how you protect your energy, in how you keep building even when no one is watching. That's the mindset that separates leaders from followers. It's not about being seen. It's about being grounded. Growth demands your full attention, and you can't give it that if your mind is always distracted by what others are doing. That's the trap. But once you break it, you reclaim your freedom. You start living on purpose. You stop being a follower of trends and become the creator of your own path. The real glow-up begins when you realize your biggest competition was never them. It was the distractions you allowed. Let go of them. Focus. Stay silent. And keep rising. When you constantly give your attention to other people, you start forgetting what truly matters. You begin to live for their opinions instead of your own peace. You react to what they think, say, or post, until your mind is no longer yours. That's the hidden cost of focusing on others. It steals your clarity. It interrupts your growth. It makes you question every move you make. And without even realizing it, you begin living life on defense. Always explaining, always adjusting, always trying to prove you're enough. But here's what they won't tell you. Peace isn't found in being understood. It's found in being aligned. Aligned with your values, your path, your truth. And you can't find that alignment when your focus is scattered across people who were never meant to guide you. The more you center your life around others, the more distant you become from your purpose. That's why it feels like something is missing. Because something is. Your energy, your power, your focus, all of it gets diluted when you hand it out freely to those who haven't earned access to it. The most powerful shift happens when you realize you don't owe anyone your attention. You don't owe them a reaction. You don't owe them your peace. Protecting your mind is not selfish. It's survival. It's the first step to taking your life back. Because when you stop being emotionally available to everything and everyone, you start building emotional discipline. You begin to respond with thought, not impulse. And that's where strength is born. You were not put here to chase opinions. You were not made to be a mirror for other people's judgments. You are here to build, to rise, to become. And the only way to do that is by reclaiming your focus and guarding your silence. Because in that silence, you don't just find calm, you find clarity. And with clarity comes power, real, unshakable power. Silence is often misunderstood. People think it means you're weak, passive, or that you've given up. But real silence, the kind that comes from self-control, is one of the strongest forces in the world. It means you've matured past the need to respond to every insult, react to every trigger, or prove your worth through words. It means you've turned inward and chosen growth over noise. Silence doesn't mean you're doing nothing. It means you're doing the work that matters, the work that happens in the dark, when no one is watching, when no one is clapping. There is a different kind of power that comes from holding your tongue, keeping your plans to yourself, and staying calm in the face of drama. That power is rare, because most people are reactive. They get pulled into arguments, distractions, and battles that don't serve them. But when you choose silence, you protect your energy. You hold on to your peace. And in that peace, you gain clarity. You start to see things for what they really are. You stop getting pulled into situations that drain your spirit. Human psychology is shaped by emotion. When we react instantly, we usually regret it later. But silence gives space. It allows logic to step in. It allows you to choose your response instead of being ruled by impulse. That choice, that pause, is where strength lives. It's where the best decisions are made. It's where healing begins. And it's where your next level is formed. Let them think you're quiet. Let them think you're soft. While they're busy talking, you'll be busy building. Let them gossip. Let them assume. That noise has nothing to do with you. Your silence is your strategy. Your silence is your shield. And in time, your silence will be your story. Because nothing speaks louder than success that required no explanation. Silence creates space, not just in your surroundings, but in your mind. When you remove the constant need to speak, react, or explain, you finally hear the thoughts that matter, your own. That's when self-awareness begins to rise. You start to ask deeper questions. What do I truly want? What do I need to let go of? What habits are holding me back? These answers don't come from noise. They come from stillness. And stillness is where transformation takes root. In that quiet, you realize how much you were carrying that wasn't even yours. Expectations from others, pressure to be liked, fear of being misunderstood. All of it fades when you stop living in response to everyone around you. Because real growth never happens in the spotlight. It happens when no one is watching, when you're alone with your thoughts, when you're no longer chasing approval, but building alignment. The most powerful version of you is not loud, it's intentional, it's calm, it's centered. When you stay silent, you don't just protect your energy, you sharpen your focus. Suddenly, what used to distract you no longer holds power. Petty arguments, shallow opinions, useless comparisons, they lose meaning. Your attention shifts from proving your worth to improving your worth. That shift is everything, because what you focus on grows. And when you focus on yourself, you grow. You grow stronger, wiser, more resilient. The world will always try to pull your attention outward, but the people who truly rise are the ones who pull it back inward. They protect their mind like it's sacred, because it is. Everything you want, peace, success, healing, strength, it all starts with how you manage your mind. And silence is the first step in mastering it. You're not running from the world. You're returning to yourself. That's where the real power lives, in you. Focusing on yourself doesn't mean you're ignoring the world. It means you're choosing to build a life that doesn't depend on it. It means you've realized that chasing people, proving points, and seeking attention only leaves you empty. That's why the shift is so powerful, when you stop looking outward for validation and begin giving that validation to yourself. You no longer need the world to tell you who you are because you've already decided. And that decision builds unbreakable confidence. Human psychology is wired to seek approval. But once you understand that, you can rise above it. You start to notice the patterns. You see how often you said yes when you wanted to say no. How many times you stayed quiet to avoid judgment. How many dreams you delayed just to keep the peace. But peace that comes from pleasing others always costs you your own. And no dream can survive in a mind that's filled with guilt and regret. When you shift your energy back to yourself, your world changes. You no longer waste hours overthinking people's opinions. You no longer fear being misunderstood. Because your focus is no longer on being liked. It's on becoming whole. And the more whole you become, the less noise affects you. You stop trying to control how others see you. You start taking control of how you see you. That's when self-respect is born. Not from loud declarations, but from quiet decisions. The decision to walk away. The decision to say less and do more. The decision to be unavailable to everything that steals your joy. That kind of focus builds character. It builds direction. And once you get a taste of that kind of clarity, you never want to go back to the noise. Because nothing is more attractive than someone who knows who they are, doesn't need to prove it, and keeps moving forward in silence. That's not just growth. That's power. Self-respect grows every time you choose yourself. Every time you walk away from gossip. Every time you protect your peace instead of joining the drama. Every time you stay silent instead of reacting. Those quiet decisions may seem small in the moment, but they shape your future. Because every time you do what's right for your growth, even when it's uncomfortable, you build strength from within. That strength becomes your identity, not because you told the world who you are, but because you showed it through your actions. When you focus on yourself, you start living with intention. You stop moving just to keep up with others. You start making decisions based on your values, your goals, and your mental health. That's the foundation of real success. Not just achieving something, but becoming someone. Someone who doesn't flinch under pressure. Someone who doesn't break when criticized. Someone who knows their worth without needing it confirmed. There's something powerful about knowing you don't owe anyone access to your thoughts, your plans, or your emotions. You're allowed to move in silence. You're allowed to keep things to yourself. Not every moment needs an audience. Not every feeling needs a reaction. The more you protect your inner world, the more powerful your outer world becomes. Because when you stop explaining yourself, people start watching you differently. They sense something stronger in your presence. It's not arrogance. It's clarity. Clarity makes you calm. It makes you decisive. It allows you to let people go without bitterness. It allows you to say no without guilt. That's what happens when you stop giving energy to everything around you and start building from within. You become unshakable, not loud, not aggressive, just deeply grounded. And the best part is, you don't need to change the world around you. You just need to change what you give your focus to. That's how your life changes quietly, powerfully, and for good. When you shift your focus inward, you begin to notice how much energy you used to waste on things that never mattered. You remember the time you overanalyzed a comment, the hours you spent crafting the perfect response, the emotional roller coasters caused by someone else's opinions. But now, you're learning that not everything deserves your attention. Not every battle is worth fighting. Some things are better left unanswered, and some people are better left in silence. That's not weakness. That's wisdom. True maturity is realizing that peace is more valuable than proving a point. You don't have to attend every argument you're invited to. You don't have to correct every misunderstanding. Most people hear only what they want to hear. And if your energy is spent trying to change their perspective, you lose sight of your own. Let them misunderstand you. Let them guess. Let them assume. If your path is clear to you, it doesn't need to be explained to anyone else. That's the beauty of staying silent and focused. You conserve your energy for what really matters, your goals, your growth, your peace. And the more you do this, the more powerful you feel. Because now, you're no longer controlled by reactions. You choose when to speak and when to walk away. That's emotional intelligence. That's power under control. You start to realize that not everyone needs access to you. Your attention is a gift. Your presence is valuable. And not everyone has earned the right to receive it. So, you protect it. You move quietly. You rise privately. And without needing to announce it, you become someone they can't ignore. Not because you demanded respect, but because you gave it to yourself first. And that kind of self-respect creates a presence that speaks louder than words ever could. As you protect your energy and move in silence, something begins to shift inside you. You no longer crave validation. You no longer chase praise. You begin to understand that being unseen doesn't mean you're not growing. It simply means you're working where growth actually happens, in the shadows, in solitude, in silence. That's where the strongest minds are built, not in the noise, but in the quiet discipline of daily effort that no one claps for. And that discipline becomes your power. You start to fall in love with the process, the early mornings, the quiet nights, the moments of doubt that you push through anyway. No one sees them, no one praises them, but you feel it. You feel the progress. You feel yourself getting sharper, calmer, more focused, and that feeling can't be faked. It's earned. It's the reward for choosing yourself every single day, even when it would be easier to scroll, to talk, to compare. This kind of focus rewires your mind. You stop seeing life as a competition. You stop trying to be better than them, and start trying to be better than you were yesterday. That's real growth. Quiet, steady, relentless. And once you've tasted that level of peace, that level of self-trust, you'll never settle for chaos again. You'll protect your mind like it's gold, because it is. Everything you create starts there. Every habit, every goal, every dream. You no longer fear being alone, because you're not lonely. You're focused. You're building something that can't be seen yet, but will be undeniable later. And when that moment comes, you won't need to explain how you got there. Your work will speak. Your growth will show. And the silence that once felt empty will now feel sacred, because you'll know it wasn't just a quiet season. It was a powerful preparation. Preparation is what separates those who wish from those who become. While others are waiting for the perfect moment, you're creating it in silence. While some are talking about plans, you're quietly executing them. That's what makes you different. You don't need to broadcast your every move because you understand that results speak louder than words. And when you've been silently working, growing, evolving, there's a calm confidence that builds inside you. You stop needing approval because you've already approved of yourself. The truth is, most people don't see the hours you invest behind closed doors. They don't see the sacrifices, the discipline, the self-doubt you've battled and still kept moving. But you see it. You feel it. That's what matters. That's what builds real confidence. Not external praise, but internal proof. Proof that you showed up for yourself even when no one was watching. Proof that you kept going when you could have quit. That kind of consistency is rare, and that's why it's powerful. Staying silent isn't about hiding, it's about holding your power, protecting your vision, giving yourself the space to grow without distraction. Because not everyone is meant to understand your journey, not everyone deserves access to your process. And when you finally stop explaining yourself, you create room for something deeper, alignment. You stop living for impressions and start living with intention. That's the difference between noise and impact. The more you trust your silence, the louder your results become. People will notice the change, not because you told them, but because they'll feel it, in your energy, in your focus, in your presence. And by then, you won't need to say a word, because you'll already be living the life that once only existed in your imagination, quietly built, boldly earned, unshakably yours. There's a silent strength and discipline that most people overlook. They think power is loud, fast, and aggressive. But real power is quiet. It's waking up early when no one's watching. It's choosing your priorities over your impulses. It's doing the hard things with no applause, no recognition, and no shortcuts. That's where transformation happens. In the choices you make when no one is checking in on you. When you start living that way, something changes. You stop depending on motivation, and you start relying on discipline. That's what makes you unstoppable. You begin to realize that the real flex isn't showing off your lifestyle. It's showing up for your goals. It's not about looking successful. It's about becoming successful, not for others to admire, but for you to feel proud when you look in the mirror. And when you live with that kind of focus, distractions lose their grip. People's opinions stop mattering. You don't need to defend your path. You just walk it, quietly, consistently, confidently. Silence gives you that clarity. You're not wasting time explaining your every move or trying to be understood. You're building. You're evolving. You're becoming someone the old version of you would admire. That kind of change doesn't need noise. It needs commitment. And the deeper your commitment, the less you need external motivation. Because now it's personal. Now it's about becoming who you said you'd be when you were tired, when you were doubting, when you were tempted to give up but didn't. That's the mindset that separates the average from the exceptional. You don't rise by chance. You rise by choosing yourself every single day. And you do it without seeking permission, without seeking praise, just quietly, with purpose. And one day, the silence that once felt like sacrifice will echo with the sound of success. Not the kind you brag about, the kind you live. The most powerful transformations don't make noise when they begin. They start in stillness. In those quiet moments when you decide to stop blaming the world and start taking control, that's when everything shifts. Not because circumstances suddenly change, but because you do. You stop waiting for someone to save you. You stop waiting for the perfect timing, the right environment, the ideal support. You take ownership. You stop making excuses and start making moves. That's where true growth begins, in the silence of personal responsibility. As you stay focused on yourself, you learn that not every storm deserves your energy. You become selective about what you give your time to. Not out of arrogance, but out of wisdom. Because you've realized that every distraction, every unnecessary conversation, every unworthy argument pulls you away from the life you're building. And you're no longer willing to waste pieces of your future to please people who don't even matter in the long run. That kind of awareness sets you free. Freedom isn't about doing whatever you want. It's about mastering what you need. It's about understanding that self-control is the highest form of self-love. Because when you can lead yourself, nothing can lead you astray. You don't chase trends. You don't beg for approval. You don't collapse under pressure. You simply rise over and over from the strength you've built within. That quiet strength earned in silence becomes your armor in a noisy world. And while others are looking outward for answers, you're going inward for truth. You're not distracted by comparison. You're not addicted to noise. You're focused, grounded, and clear. That's the kind of power that doesn't fade with opinions or circumstances. It's the kind that carries you through setbacks and lifts you through doubt. The kind that isn't borrowed. It's built, brick by brick, in silence. Until one day, what was once invisible becomes undeniable. You'll start to notice something interesting once you truly commit to focusing on yourself. The noise around you begins to fade. The drama that once pulled you in now feels small. The opinions that once shook you lose their power. Why? Because your mind is no longer looking outward for stability, it's found peace within. And when your peace comes from within, nothing on the outside can take it away. That's the power of staying silent and focused. You become untouchable, not because life stops testing you, but because you stop reacting to everything that doesn't deserve your energy. People might not understand you, some will question your silence. Others will misinterpret your distance. Let them. Your job isn't to explain your evolution. Your job is to evolve, to grow so quietly and consistently that one day, even those who doubted you won't recognize who you've become. That's what happens when you move in silence. You trade the need to be seen for the power to build without distraction. There's strength in restraint. There's courage in choosing your battles. And there's deep wisdom in knowing that not everything needs a response. Your silence is not weakness. It's a strategy. It's how you guard your energy, protect your vision, and keep your goals safe from the noise. Because when too many people know your next step, they try to influence your direction. But when you stay quiet, you stay in control. And control over your mind is the greatest gift you can give yourself. Every time you choose to stay silent instead of reacting, you're building emotional strength. Every time you resist the urge to prove something, you're building discipline. And every time you stay committed to your own path, even when it feels lonely, you're building character. That's the quiet path to power. It doesn't need recognition. It doesn't need permission. It just needs consistency. And that's exactly what you're learning to master. One focused, silent step at a time. And as you continue on this quiet path, something even deeper begins to take root. Self-respect. You stop settling for less than you deserve. You stop explaining your worth to people who were never meant to see it. You no longer seek comfort in approval. because you've found strength in your solitude. That kind of self-respect doesn't scream, it doesn't argue, it simply stands firm. It creates boundaries without guilt. It says no without explanation. It walks away without looking back. That is the energy of someone who has finally chosen themselves. When you focus on yourself, you start hearing your own voice again. The one that was buried under opinions, noise, and expectations. You begin to move differently, more calmly, more intentionally. You think before you speak. You act without announcing. And you become someone who doesn't just react to life, but designs it. This is how real power works. It's silent but undeniable. It doesn't need recognition to exist. It exists in how you carry yourself, how you treat yourself, and what you allow into your space. You realize that peace is more valuable than attention, growth is more rewarding than gossip, and silence is more productive than arguing with people committed to misunderstanding you. This mindset is rare, but it's what builds leaders, not the loud kind, but the kind who move with quiet certainty, the kind who don't need to tell the world what they're doing because their results will tell the story for them. So you stay committed, you stay silent, you stay focused, and every day you become stronger, not in a way that the world always sees, but in a way that you deeply feel. And that inner strength, calm, steady, unshakable, is what will carry you forward. Through resistance, through setbacks, through everything that once distracted you. Because now your direction is clear and your silence is working louder than words ever could. The beauty of this journey is that it rewires how you see everything. Your time, your energy, your purpose. You begin to value stillness over stimulation. You start choosing peace over popularity. And slowly, you no longer chase what's fleeting. You build what lasts. Because when you're focused on yourself, you stop running in circles trying to prove your worth. Instead, you walk forward with intention, knowing that your path doesn't need to be loud to be meaningful. It just needs to be real. You stop letting temporary emotions make permanent decisions. You don't let someone's mood shake your foundation. You don't let criticism change your course. Why? Because now you're grounded, not in ego, but in purpose, not in perfection, but in progress. You trust yourself even when the world is silent. That trust becomes your compass. It keeps you moving even when the road is unclear, even when you're tired, even when you're tested. Because deep down, you know who you're becoming. The distractions you used to entertain now feel empty. The conversations you once held onto now feel draining. And the validation you used to crave now feels irrelevant. That's not loneliness, it's growth. That's not arrogance, it's maturity. When you truly focus on yourself, you no longer need the world to tell you you're on the right track. You can feel it in your own actions, in your own discipline, in your own peace. This isn't about shutting out the world. It's about turning down the volume so you can hear your own thoughts again. So you can think clearly, feel deeply, and act intentionally. It's about stepping out of the noise and into alignment with who you were always meant to be. And that alignment, that quiet inner knowing, it will guide you to everything that's meant for you, without force, without noise, without apology. Just focus, just silence, just you.